Hey everybody, welcome to a little bit of woo woo. I know I don't normally see you guys on Saturday, but I was so excited. I wanted to tell you something. So, you guys, some those of you who follow the markets have noticed gold got up a little high, right? So when it was like 3,300 an ounce, my husband came and said, "Hey, by any chance, do you have like broken jewelry that you want to get rid of? Anything? I have some stuff from some old boyfriends." Anyway, yeah, I had some old broken necklaces because it happens, right? And you just throw them in a drawer and forget about it. So I grabbed all that stuff and we took it to one of those gold places, and it was like $1,000. It was like $1,000 of cash. That was awesome. I'm just saying, it's awesome. So if you guys have broken necklaces, gold is still really high, so I would highly recommend going to check that out. So that's my little PSA for the day. Anyway, I'm Jill. Welcome to a little bit of woo woo. I'm recording this on April 26th, a Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific, and you'll probably see it tonight. Might be up tonight. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am nobody special in this. You really shouldn't listen to me, particularly if I'm giving predictions that are timely, like the markets. If I'm talking about that, entertainment purposes only. The other thing I want to say on this too is that, and this is especially true in this particular video, when you watch videos like mine, and I'm sure if you watch mine, you probably watch several of these, just know that you're getting the highlights or the lowlights of stuff that's going to happen over the course of 6 months. You're getting the ugly headlines all in the course of maybe a 20-minute video. And it makes it seem like a whole bunch of bad stuff is happening. Now, that may be true, but the majority of the stuff that you're going to experience is going to be good. And that's why I always hesitate sometimes to do these videos, because I don't want to contribute to the fear. I'm giving you this disclaimer now. Just know that a lot of good stuff is going to happen, as I'm about to tell you about some not so nice stuff. So the first area I want to go to is the tariffs. It's kind of what every client is asking about right now. I hate to say this because I wish it wasn't true, but I do feel like this is going to go on longer than we'd like to think it's going to go on. I do think the result will be some loss of product on shelves. What do you need to do? Well, if you live in a place like California, you probably already should have a stash of stuff in your house that you don't need right now. I would just say it's going to be a little while before that starts to play out and really be empty shelves, but start buying a little bit extra every time you go to the grocery store now. And spare a thought for purchasing some extra product for the food banks. I don't know if you guys heard on the news, but a lot of these food banks, their funding got cut back to the pre-pandemic levels. There had been some Biden era stimulus gone, and they were getting extra food or extra support during the Biden administration. That has been rolled back. Unfortunately, the need has actually just grown instead of diminished back to pre-pandemic levels. So I'm just saying, spare thought for them as well, because it's rough out there for a lot of people. Okay. So again, back to just throw a few things in your cart. You guys are smart. I know that you've already been to Costco. I know you already gotten a refill of your prescription, and maybe you got a couple extra months than you need. That would be very smart. That's what I would recommend. We as a family, we always have had extra, and keep in our pantry. We're going to keep those levels a little bit higher for a while, because again, it's not going to, I just don't really see it like really playing out until like May and June. Because what I'm getting from the guides is it isn't as much the product, because I know a lot of you guys are in your mind, you're like, well, that stuff, the chicken I buy is made in Kansas, right? Yeah, but the packaging may not be. I mean, I used to work in the vitamin industry. I can tell you, just a vitamin package, the label, the bottle, the lid, the insert, the plastic thing that goes around the top, all that stuff comes from China. And if a company in the US doesn't have it and they need it, they can't make the product regardless of how many piles of that stuff they have in the back. So I'm just saying, just get extra. That's just a smart thing to do, right? The other thing I want to talk about too is, geez, the fear. Everybody's feeling it. I mean, there's Mark Maron. I don't know if you guys listen to him. He's a comedian. Awesome. He did a skit like in the first 45 administration. It was called "I'm Afraid of My Phone," and it was awesome. He could have just done it yesterday. So Google that if you ever get a chance. You can hear that. It's like 5 minutes. It's awesome. But he basically talked about afraid to look at his phone, because then he would hear about something crazy that happened last night, and then he'd be afraid of that and how it would influence his whole day. I'm wanting to talk about that in particular because I'm hearing this from clients. People are anxious all the time because the sand is shifting. It feels like every week there's something, batshit crazy going on in the news. Another, big board with different tariff levels is coming out all the time. This kind of stuff is happening all the time, and ugh, people are really getting freaked out by that. They're anxious. I hate to say it, I do feel like this is somewhat intentional. I mean, more than somewhat. This is intentional. A lot of people are getting their awakenings. I'm hearing this all the time from clients. I'm seeing ghosts in my house. I'm getting intuitive messages. I'm feeling like what I'm being told isn't true. And they're right. Um, but this fear shifts you out of that higher vibrational frequency of intuition into the lower vibrational frequency of fear and anxiety and anger towards the people around you. When in reality, a lot of us just need to learn how to turn it off. I hate to say it. Turning it off, putting it in the box, leaving it, grab your sacred geometry art, make sure it's around you. I love sacred geometry. Play with your pets and step away from the news, because what's happening is intentional. They know that we're getting upgrades. They know we're getting intuition hits. They know that we're being up leveled, and it is harder to control us when we kind of have a good sense that what we're being told isn't right and isn't true. You can't just let yourself slide into that. I know it's hard. I'm like 3 fingers back at myself on that one. This is really tough. Okay, so I want to talk about the economy a bit. I know I've already talked about tariffs, how things are going to impact it. Uh, One of the ways is that if companies are uncertain about their bottom line or their margins, it's earnings seasons right now. Some of you guys already know that. They're not going to be investing in future. They're not going to be investing in future infrastructure, future machines to build product. It's not necessarily going to impact us right now. We're not necessarily going to see those layoffs tomorrow, although that's already happening somewhat. In the next years when this is really going to impact. So a lot of the stuff that's happening now, like those 80, big tankers full of product coming from China coming here that got turned around or that just didn't ever leave the ports. That's not going to affect us tomorrow. It's going to affect us in 6 months. So a lot of this stuff, the lag is going to really hit later. I know you guys are concerned about that. Should you be concerned? Yeah, you should take some steps. There will be plenty of food. I was just at a trade show. I met a lot of the buyers and category managers from Costco, and these ladies are doing the Lord's work. They're making sure that there's going to be stuff on the shelves at Costco, and I guarantee you they're going to make sure there's products. It's their job on the line too. So there will be plenty of food, but it may just not be your brands. I'm just saying, be cautious. If there's something you really like, you should get a few. Wouldn't hurt, right? And understand though that if you're still seeing product on the shelves next month, know that it's going to play out over the period of time. So still be vigilant, okay? The next thing people are asking me about is the Social Security cuts to Social Security and Medicaid, Medicare. Ooh, that's tough. Okay, nobody's messing with grandma's Social Security checks. There will be some cuts. I am seeing cuts later on. I'm seeing changes in the way these things are paid out. This is like 10 years down the road, though. This is way after this administration is long gone. For now, I do see them a lot of threatening, a lot of talking about it, but they're not going to really do that much. Yes, there will be a few hiccups, and we will see those things on the news because the news media wants us to know if something bad happens to grandma's Social Security check and it's delayed even 10 minutes. Trust me, we're going to hear about it on the news. But generally, the majority of people, it's going to be fine. Medicaid, they're going to start to cut back on some of the benefits. We've already seen this, but I do see it being more. But it's not. It's not huge amounts of changes. If you're the one receiving it and not you're getting $50 less a month in food stamps, or you're not getting food stamps, it's going to seem like a lot to you. But the majority of us are going to look at these numbers and think, geez, it could be so much worse. And it could. But I think that the first round, it's not going to be quite that much. I do see them going after some programs. It feels like, and this may have already happened, it feels like there was like a summer school lunch program for underprivileged kids where they were still getting school lunches even in the summertime. I feel like those kinds of programs are going to start to go away, or they're going to have to be funded by the states directly, not with the federal government. It feels like something like that is going to start to play out, and we're going to be seeing like little cuts everywhere, just lots of little cuts. It adds up to a lot of money, but it's going to start to hit in that way. Now, I was saying I think I said on my last video that Social Security is going to start to change. As time goes on, I am seeing that happening. I am seeing them raising the starting age, but again, like 10 years down. I also see I was being shown that it's going to start to the way it's paid out may start to come from the states directly. So it'll be a little harder for you to move in a period of time. Feeling like 10 or 15 years, it's going to be kind of harder to move from state to state. Because I do see some of the states themselves administering it. That's just what I was shown. But I think some of those kinds of things are going to happen. Um, Part of what's happening with this administration too is you see the anger. Um, Lots of going to court. That is going to continue. It's going to get really ugly. What we're already seeing though is we're going to be seeing states kind of forming alliances and trying to make deals for trade themselves. I think Gavin Newsom has already tried to do this. I do see states like Oregon, Washington, and California banding together to work on things and projects together. A lot of these governors are going to be doing their own sort of trade deals between the states. Also feel like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, those states that are kind of in that same little area that have a lot of the same problems will be doing similar little deals. I don't think the 47 administration is going to be happy about that because they like the idea of all of the power being centralized. But I do think that a lot of the states are going to be taking the reins here. And I do think some of these court cases, the different district attorneys of the states that are surrounding that have similar values are going to be putting these court cases together and working together just because it's just so much work to try and put a court case together to go to the Supreme Court. I do see some of that happening and playing out. It will be some of the states too with different values is what I was seeing. But there's like the common enemy idea. Like we don't want our elderly people not to get their Social Security checks. So we're putting aside our red state and our blue state differences and working together on a common goal. I do see more of that playing out. For those of you who live in Oregon, I was actually seeing, I know we're a little concerned because there's a bridge between Oregon and Washington they're trying to build between the Portland area and the Washington side over a very large river. It's replacing a bridge that I think is 130 years old. It's scary as hell bridge, by the way, driving over it. I do see a delay. Everybody's concerned that's going to be delayed. I do see that being delayed, and I actually see the delay being a good thing. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I see it being a good thing because I think there's going to be some seismic activity in that area, and I think they're going to realize that it may not be. They may need to make it more sound than it is. I see them doing some re-engineering of the plans a little bit. I also do see they have to delay it. I think this was on the news. They have to delay it a bit because of the cost of the steel for the bridge might actually be quite a bit higher than they thought. The reason I'm telling you this is because what I'm also seeing with this situation, and I know this doesn't affect almost any of you guys, it affects me, but is that I do see some cooperation with California to get this bridge put together because it has to do with movement of product between these states and part of these alliances. And I'm seeing it's not just those three states working together, but other states will have similar dealings. We've got this extra steel. We're not going to need it for a few years. Just replace it when it comes time to be your turn to build the bridge. I'm just saying, I see a lot more of this cooperation happening. Okay, I want to talk about Powell. Oh my God, you guys saw that tweet. It was so bad. Calling him a loser. Ugh, I just don't see anybody really thinking that he is a loser. So I also think it is the Fed. That was the Fed chair, for those of you who don't know. I don't see it being the right approach to he's trying to get him to lower rates. An interesting little hit on that. This was sort of intuitive, but also like made me think like, I wondered if one of the reasons that Powell wasn't lowering the rates was because, I'm just going to give you an example. Those of you guys in banking know what I'm talking about. You go to your bank and you give them $1,000. They give you almost no interest rate, but they can get 4.5% by buying a bond, buying a T-bill. What happens if the interest rate goes down to 2? You're still not getting any money for this money that you're basically lending to them, right? But these banks aren't getting as much profit if the interest rate goes down. See what I'm saying here? Because they're still not giving you anything. They weren't giving you anything before. But now their profit level is going down. I'm almost wondering if Powell's keeping their rates higher for longer, partly because he wants the big banks, the too big to fail banks, to stay solvent. It's just a thought, kind of an intuitive hit, but I'm like, I know a lot about how this stuff works, and I'm thinking, I wonder if that's part of it. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about, I got a long list today, you guys. Ukraine. So people ask me about this a lot. I don't like tuning into war zones, which is why I haven't talked much about Israel, but I will this time. I do feel they are going to resolve this. I do see when I tune into the energy of Ukraine, it's very beautiful. It's very light. A lot of people are sending them love. I can feel the love towards Ukraine, and I can feel how much people are rooting for them. This is going to be done. I would say it feels like August, September, maybe even sooner, but that is going to be resolved for sure by the end of the year. Um, Maybe both sides aren't happy, but maybe it's also not the final resolution. So maybe they get some of this stuff, and then later on they get more of it. I'm just seeing that the Ukraine situation is going to get resolved. Israel is a harder one, though. I haven't talked about that before because it's not. I don't want to contribute to the loud, ugly noise, but it doesn't feel like this is going to go well for Israel and Palestine, and that situation is so very sad. I think we're going to be hearing about these, you know, I don't know, peace talks or truces or it's all smoke and mirrors. It's never really going to stop being a conflict zone. I'm sorry, guys. I don't see that really changing until after the end of the year. And I think it may have to do with when it changes, it'll have to do with a change of the administration in Israel. And yeah, I've talked about that one before. I think I still see it not going well for Israel and definitely the people of Palestine. It's just a sad, sad situation for all around. But I don't see it getting better anytime soon. I really don't. I'm sorry. I want to talk a little bit about weather, and then I'm going to talk about the cast of characters in the 47 administration. So I got a list here. Weather. Oh my God. Well, I definitely see a lot of tornadoes. I see a lot of tornadoes. I see some seismic activity on the West Coast. It does feel like it could even be. I know I've said tsunami before. I do kind of feel like it's going to be some tsunami activity, but again, I'm not seeing a large amount of loss of life here, but I'm seeing a lot of, oh, these earthquakes. We weren't really expecting them to be in this particular location. Okay. And sort of people being more vigilant now because they didn't realize this kind of thing could happen there. Definitely some tornadoes, and definitely some very difficult hurricanes in Florida. It feels like one, possibly two really big ones, kind of like what happened last year, right? We had one in the top and one towards in the bottom. I do see that coming. You don't need a psychic to know that that's what happens every year, but I do see it being quite ugly. But the tornadoes I was seeing was really a lot. It was like a bumper crop season, particularly in like Arkansas. I mean, that whole alley area. Just, geez, I'm sorry, guys. It wasn't looking good. Okay. So the 47 administration, you guys remember from last time, there was a lot of turnover. It feels like there's going to be a lot of turnover again. I know people have asked me about Hegseth or are curious about it. I think he might actually survive this next little, he's already in trouble for something else he did. I think he might survive it again, but I do see a lot of, no, don't let it happen again, guys, that kind of thing. I'm 90% sure, I'm not 100% sure. I'm 90% sure he will survive this and continue on for a little bit longer at least. RFK, when I tune into his energy, you know what? It feels like he's in over his head. I really feel like he feels overwhelmed by some of this. Personally, I love the idea of getting some of these dyes out of our food. I personally like that idea. I'm not really a fan of some of his other stuff, but I don't think we're gonna see him around for too much longer. I just feel like he's realizing what he sort of took on, and it's more than he really wanted. Same thing with Patel. Oof, I would be very surprised if he sticks around for another month. I just think he's not happy. He doesn't wanna do it. This isn't what he thought he signed up for. It's way more than he thought, and it's not as satisfying as he thought, okay? The people that were sent to El Salvador, interestingly enough, I do see a few of them coming back, like 3 coming back kind of in the new soonish. soonish. It's not next week is what I'm saying. I would say within the next 3 months, we're going to be seeing at least three of these guys coming back. Pictures, I can't picture them in my mind, but I'm seeing the number I was shown was three. And then some of the rest would come back later. Um, the bigger picture on this, and you guys probably already figured it out, he wants to be able to export some of our most hardened criminals, the people that are charged with until you die crimes. His thought was if we could send them all over there, would save some money. That was the thought, and then they wouldn't have any of these pesky appeals processes going on over there. That's not going to happen. I don't think his administration is going to succeed in that, and I also don't think he's going to be around long enough to see that through. Let's put it that way. But that feels like that was his initial plan. Elon, oh God. Okay, people have asked a lot about these breaches that happened with some of the stuff that Doge was doing. When I tuned into the energy of that, it didn't feel necessarily intentional, but it definitely feels like there was a breach. It didn't necessarily feel intentional. At least the person that did it, it was like it's like they unlocked a door to get into a particular room, and then when they left the door unlocked or something. It has that kind of feeling to it. It doesn't feel intentional, but the people trying to break in absolutely was intentional. My only thought in this is, yes, you could worry about it if you want to. I personally would rather worry about other things. A lot of our data is already out there anyway. You guys, if you knew how much data, hospital administrations have, the bankers have access to, a lot of it is just not as secure as you thought anyway. I'm just going to say and put it out there that, yeah, it's bad, but this is not in the lockbox. This isn't as private. This information is not as private as you think it is. And just be vigilant. Watch your things. Our bank has a system where it actually sends us a notification every time the credit card is used. So every time I go buy something, my husband knows. I have to be careful when I buy him a present, where I buy it from, because he'll know what it's from. I may not know what it is. I'm just saying, pay attention to that. You can't just trust that everything's going to be okay, but you can kind of trust that everything's going to be okay, because it's really a lot of data, and to do damage to somebody would also take a situation of people not paying attention. I think a lot of us now are kind of scared and are paying attention. So just, you need to pay attention. Some people have given the advice to lock your credit. That might not be a bad idea. I'm just saying, maybe it is, maybe it's not. The last thing I want to leave you with, really, with this stuff is that, I was doing some traveling last week, and quick story, I traveled to San Diego, unexpected, sort of a last minute. And San Diego is one of those airports where the rental car agency is offsite. So, we're all in this little bus to take the drive over the 8-minute, 12-minute drive, depending on traffic, to the little rental car agency. And this bus is totally full. Somebody gets on. Last person to get on was a very pregnant woman, really huge bag. And everybody, somebody jumps up and makes sure that her bag gets stowed away. And then this gentleman says, "Oh, you've got to take my seat." She's like, "No, it's only 8 minutes. I'll take it." "No, no, no. I insist. You sit and take the seat." So she takes the seat. But what was cool about it is that in this, the energy of that bus was just like heavy before. We were all tired. If you're going on a long flight, if you're needing a rental car, you've been on a long flight. And there was this sort of collective, like, "Aw, we really do care about each other," right? I would encourage you in this next week to be the person that changes the vibrational frequency of the bus by being kind, by doing the right thing. And I want you to sort of acknowledge the way all of us can do a little bit that makes things a lot better. So essentially, I want to leave you with this idea that we can all do better. And wouldn't it be nice to be that person that affects the change of the energy of a whole space by saying something kind or being kind? So with that, I hope you have a great week. I love you guys. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Actually, I might see you Thursday. I'll see you Thursday. Bye. Bye.